الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Inshallah, we're continuing the Halaqa series, Mastering Manners. I don't know how long this is going to go. I kind of come up with the topic every week. But it all falls under the Mastering Manners. May Allah Azza wa Jalla increase us in knowledge, in understanding the mannerisms of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, so that we may implement it in our own lives. Last week we talked, or the week before last, we talked about the concept of visiting, and we spent about 3 weeks just talking about the etiquette and the mannerisms of being a guest or hosting guests, both in terms of knocking, where to stand, how to eat, right? Who can we eat from, right? All of these fall under the mannerisms of being a guest. Now, inshallah, today, what I planned to talk about was in terms of our speech, how we go about speaking to one another, but specifically tone, right? What tone should we have when we are speaking with one another? How should the Muslim, in terms of being having proper etiquette, how should we speak, right? In terms of tone. So even to the level of tone, we see how the Quran teaches us, right? And inshallah, today we'll be identifying just 3 verses where Allah Azza wa Jal is purely speaking about tone, right? Tone, and how the Muslim should beware of the tone that he uses. So the first one, in the first scenario that we'll look into, is that of which the Prophet Musa alayhi salam was sent to Fir'aun, right? When Prophet Musa alayhi salam was sent to Fir'aun. So Allah Azza wa Jal had appointed Musa as a prophet of Allah, and Prophet Musa alayhi salam, being fearful of the task, had asked Allah Azza wa Jal to appoint Harun as his helper in the task, in delivering the message to Pharaoh, right, the tyrant. Now Allah Azza wa Jal, He accepts this request and grants Musa and appoints Musa as also a prophet of Allah Azza wa Jal. And He says to both of them, فَقُولَا لَهُ قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا لَعَلَّهُ يَتَذَكَّرُ أَوْ يَخْشَى. And speak to him with soft speech. Perhaps he may accept admonition or fear Allah. So perhaps he may remember, or he may develop a fear of Allah. So this is in itself, right, Allah highlighting the word, underlining the word layyina. That Allah Azza wa Jal, He describes the way, right, the way that Prophet Musa and Prophet Harun should deliver the speech, right, the way that she should give the speech to Fir'aun, right, the tyrant, that they should be soft in speech. So not only is this attributed to the words that they say, but how they say those words, how they go about delivering, to speak in a soft tone, right, a soft tone. So Musa was still commanded to speak Fir'aun, but to speak with him with softness. So this is a lesson that when we give da'wah, whenever we're giving da'wah, we should use that easy speech and to be gentle and soft in our speech. So this is so that the message may have been what for Fir'aun? What was the point of Allah Azza wa Jal describing that the speech should be layyin? Right? Allah Azza wa Jal, He says in the Quran, why? So that it may reach him, right? So that it may لَعَلَّهُ يَتَذَكَّرُ أَوْ يَخْشَى, so that perhaps he develops this kind of fear for Allah. All right, and so this is a way to have a deeper and more beneficial result whenever we are trying to convince someone, whenever we're trying to negotiate with someone, whenever we're trying to give da'wah to someone, right? Tone just by itself is a way to convince someone else. Just the tone, right? We're not even talking about the type of speech or the type of da'wah, just tone, right? How you lower your tone. Okay. The other instance where we're told or talked about tone is when Allah Azza wa Jal is telling us the story of Luqman alayhi salam, right? When he is advising his son, وَغْضُضْ مِنْ صَوْتِكَ, right? And lower your voice, right? And lower your voice. Yeah, so here is do not exaggerate in your speaking and do not raise your voice unnecessarily, right? So there was points in times where even the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, right, there is wisdom in raising one's tone, right? So it's not haram or it's not impermissible to have a raised tone, because even in those cases there are certain cases where a high tone is preferred, right? Such as when the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ gave Jum'ah or delivering a speech, right? These are moments where you having a higher tone is favored, right? But there's other times where having a lower tone is favored. But this is the advice of Luqman to his son: وَغْضُضْ مِنْ صَوْتِكَ, that is, lower your voice. إِنَّ أَنْكَرَ الْأَصْوَاتِ لَصَوْتُ الْحَمِيرِ, that the most hated of sounds is the sound of the donkey. So Mujahid, he comments, he says, the most ugly of voices is the voice of the donkey, i.e., when a person raises his voice, the resulting noise is like the voice of a donkey in its loudness. Moreover, this is a hateful to Allah. Likening a loud voice to that of a donkey implies that it is forbidden and extremely blameworthy. Right? So here, Luqman alayhi salam is likening a loud voice or a high tone to that of a donkey. Right? That we shouldn't always be speaking with such a high tone. There's a difference now between a deep voice and a high tone, right? But to have a moderation in that and to only raise your tone when necessary. Only raise your tone when necessary. Now, the last and final instance in the Quran where Allah Azza wa Jalla is speaking about tone, right? Level of voice. Is that between Abu Bakr and Umar رضي الله عنهما أجمعين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا ترفعوا أصواتكم فوق صوت النبي. O you who believe, do not raise your voices above the voice of who? Above the voice of who? Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? Do not raise your voice above the voice of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now this verse was sent down specifically in the matter of Abu Bakr and Umar radiallahu anhum when they disagreed with one another, right? And we see this throughout the seerah that there would be some times where Abu Bakr and Umar specifically would disagree with one another, and they both had different personalities, right? Now this is not to show or shed bad light on the companions of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, but rather to show that even they had beneficial disputes, right? Sometimes not everyone agrees. There's a saying that says, if two people always agree, then one of them isn't needed, right? If two people always agree, then one of them isn't needed. Why are you going to have two people when they both agree on the same thing? If they always agree, then you only need one, right? But here there's variety, right? In difference of opinions, right? There's a variety and there's ways to get benefit from one another in a healthy dispute. So it's not a haram or dislike, right? When you get in an argument, right, then this is where we need to moderate our tone, right? This is where we need to moderate our tone. And Allah Azza wa Jal corrected both Abu Bakr and Umar that do not raise your voices above the voice of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now this was a dispute between the delegation of Bani Tamim, but this is beyond the scope of this class. So Abdullah ibn Zubayr said that after this verse was revealed, Umar's voice was so low that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ had to ask him to repeat what he said so that he could understand what he was saying to him. Right? يا الذين آمنوا لا ترفعوا أصواتكم فوق صوت النبي ولا تجهروا له بالقول كجهر بعضكم لبعض أن تحبط أعمالكم وأنتم لا تشعرون. That perhaps all of your deeds will be negated because of this one action, right? Because of this one action, to raise your voice above the voice of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, or to be distracted with one another that you cannot even hear what the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is trying to say, right? So it hit Umar so hard that he never, after this voice was revealed, was so scared that to raise his voice ever again, that even the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, when he was in personal dialogue with him, would have to ask him to speak up. SubhanAllah. So this was the mannerisms and the characteristics. Surah Al-Hujurat is full of mannerisms, but specifically what we've focused on today is tone, right? The way we match our tone when talking with others, both with our parents, right, with people who are above us, with the elders, right, and even with those below us, right, the children, right, employees, right. The way we speak sometimes is not about the message itself, but how you deliver that message, right? How you deliver that message. So sometimes even just the tone that you have can reach further than the message itself, right? Can reach further than the message itself. May Allah Azza wa Jalla enable us to implement this beautiful characteristic in this beautiful manner. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين، لنكونن من الهالكين، لنكونن من القوم الضالين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم إنا نسألك الفردوس الأعلى وما قرب إليها من قول أو عمل، ونعوذ بك من عذاب جهنم وما قرب إليها من قول أو عمل. اللهم إنا نسألك رضاك من سخطك ومعافاتك من عقوبتك وفوز الجنة والنجاة من النار. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. إن شاء الله we'll continue next week. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.